It's great to be here. Good to meet so many friends. My talk is, I recognize, a bit unusual amongst the talks that you've heard whole day today. It focuses on global health, which is very far removed from engineering, you might think. But believe it or not, engineering has a great role to play. So hopefully by the time I'm done with my talk, you would see the value that you can add to that field. But essentially what I'm going to really be talking about is reciprocal innovation. One quick thing about my background, in addition to my roles at Stanford, I took a sabbatical for a couple of years at a global health NGO called PATH in Seattle, where I actually incubated a lot of my ideas, and a lot of what you're going to hear today was developed there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
GSK and Save the Children are offering
can we pause this for a second? I want to say something.
To help save children's lives. Open to innovators in developing countries. Why?
All right. I want you to picture a prematurely born baby girl. Let's call her baby Eva in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. She's in this little town, little village at the border of Lesotho, which is at least a couple of 100 kilometers away from the nearest big city in Durban. She's terribly underweight. Her mother cannot produce enough milk to feed her, possibly because she has AIDS and she's very sick. The nearest big city, Durban, as I said, is 200 kilometers away. So what that means is that she doesn't have access to big hospitals with big machines that we are used to. Her best hope is donated milk. Donated milk is like an elixir. It's a life-saving drug for her. Unfortunately, there is not a milk bank, a human milk bank in the vicinity. In this setting, the technology that you're about to see actually makes a big difference to the lives of babies like that. So we can play that. Go ahead.
GSK and Save the Children are offering a $1 million prize fund to help save children's lives. Open to innovators in developing countries. Why? Because when babies cannot get breast milk from their mothers, they can be vulnerable to life-threatening conditions. But something can be done. Meet one of our winners, Phone Astra. Here's how it works. Donated breast milk is pasteurized using this low-cost innovation, supporting human milk banks across South Africa for the babies who need it most. Want to join our winners with your bright idea? Apply for the 2016 award at healthcareinnovationaward.org.
This technology, you know what's the remarkable thing about it? This was developed based on the needs that were identified by the health workers in South Africa. It was developed in close partnership between PATH, by my team, and University of Washington, and about a dozen partners in South Africa itself. And most importantly, this technology gets used in the field. It saved the life of baby Eva. It saves lives of many more babies today. That is the new way of doing innovation that I call reciprocal innovation. But more about that a little later in the talk. Let's first celebrate the great success that we have had in addressing global health problems in the last few decades. I'm not going to go through all of the data there, but what you can see clearly in the second chart on the top is the dramatic reduction in global maternal mortality and the number of lives that have been saved under 5. About half of the babies that used to die due to various preventable causes don't die anymore. So quite a bit of success. Polio is near elimination in most of the countries. So you can see that quite a bit of success has been accomplished. And most of this has happened due to investment of hundreds of billions of dollars over the last 5-6 decades, and by millions of global health warriors that come from different stripes. It's a remarkable progress that we have made. Unfortunately, there's a problem. This is the history of innovation in health. If you notice, a lot of innovation has happened over the last few hundred years. Most of it is in the last 100 years. Again, you don't need to read the names of all the vaccines that have been developed. But if you notice, they all have been developed in the Western world with Western money. Well, you'll say, why is that a problem? That's great, right? West has been part of a major impact on global health. Well, the challenge is, when you look at our accomplishments again, Look at the infographic in the middle where we are showing the number of deaths of children under 5, 12.7 to 6 million. That's the reduction. But guess what? 6 million babies die even today per year of preventable causes. These babies don't need to die. These kids don't need to die. And a big part of the reason why they die is because quite a bit of work that is going on here has been focused on kinds of things where we can make big impact en masse. But it hasn't been really focused on little things that you could do on the ground in real time. That's part of the reason is that local communities have not really been part of the solution. The biggest problem is the problems that we are going to be facing in the next few decades are not easy to solve also. Many of them don't have vaccines that can address those problems. The kinds of challenges that we are talking about, we're talking about water, air, food, things that we consider to be our life-sustaining elements. They are actually disease-causing vectors now. Ebola and Zika are becoming global menace. Lack of economic progress is directly connected with global health problems. So in light of those challenges, the kinds of solutions that we have developed so far, we really can't be counting on them. There's something else that's going on. There's a darker side and a brighter side to what's happening in the world today. Historically, the rest of the world, let's call it, versus Western world, rest of the world was richer. India, China had 25% each of global GDP, 1,000 plus years back. They were rich and they were healthy, whereas Western world was poorer and sick. Over the years, hundreds of years, post-scientific revolution in particular, West got richer and healthier, and the rest of the world had difficulty maintaining health of its citizens, its residents. Well, things are changing again. The rest of the world is becoming economically more affluent, technologically more advanced, with more human capacity, and the West is starting to decline. And the trajectory, as you can see there, it's actually coming together. Will these two meet or cross over? Regardless, we need to be working together. We need to be working together to pool our resources and to solve these problems that we are going to be encountering in the next 50, 100 years. And this is where reciprocal innovation comes in. Reciprocal innovation I'm sorry about this slide, it didn't quite come out the way I wanted. But essentially, the reciprocal innovation changes the framing of innovation. Innovations used to be developed here in the Western world, in San Francisco, and in Seattle, and DC, and New York, and other parts of Europe. And then they were parachuted in to Africa, and Asia, and Latin America. And they did wonders. Vaccines have done remarkable jobs of treating diseases in these countries. But that does not work any longer for several reasons. That I had talked about earlier. What the reciprocal innovation does, which is different from the traditional model of innovation, is that it flips the focus of innovation. The need has to be identified in the region where the needs are. Let's say this particular town that I talked about in KwaZulu-Natal. It actually brings the solution from ground up, but it brings in partners from around the world as needed. No longer are the problems understood on the ground, but then solutions are being developed in the labs here. That is no longer going to work. So if we can do this together, if we pool our resources together, my hope is that we can reach that utopia up on the left side, where we have a lot of resources, we have pooled together our resources, we have abundance of resources, but the problems are few. Thank you.